Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video will contain spoilers for the 1990 movie, Henry and June. This video may also include discussions and/or images of violence, sexual situations, and drug use. Viewing beyond this point is a choice you have made, and you take responsibility for that choice. Thank you, and please have a nice day.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone's having fun. And I hope the universe is treating you fairly. Today's video, we're going to go into the 1990 movie Henry and June. Before we get too deep into this, I will tell you that this movie was the first movie to receive an NC-17 rating by the MPAA. There is a lot of sex in this movie. There's a lot of nudity in this movie. And it is what it is. The movie is based on book of the same name, which is a book that was published posthumously after Anise Nin's death. The book is basically a section of her diaries that takes place starting in 1931. Anise Nin was a very intelligent woman, very much a woman ahead of her time. She wrote erotica. She wrote, she was an essayist, a bit of a philosopher. Unfortunately, in the time period that she lived and did most of her writing, she was underappreciated. She was married to a man named Ian Hugo. Though I've never found anything that has specifically said it outright, I've always had the feeling that her husband was completely asexual. From the stuff I've read and gathered, he loved her, enjoyed his companionship with her, enjoyed being with her, loved her, except he personally had very little to no use for sex. He was not a sexual creature. Where his wife, Anise Nin, was. She's very sexual, very bisexual. And her husband gave her the latitude to explore and fulfill her sexual needs. It was while they were living in Paris, she met Henry Miller. and his wife, June Miller. Both Henry and June lived a very libertine lifestyle. They had an interesting marriage. To say that when Henry Miller and June Miller were in a room together, they were either going to fight or fuck is an accurate statement, but it's a very, very simplified, very general, very broad statement. The Millers had both of the Millers had drug and alcohol issues. Henry Miller, as much as he loved women, cherished women, was very convenient in his male feminism. He was a bit of a misogynist when it came to some things. Anais Nin, during this particular point, helped him edit and get his first novel, Tropic of Cancer, published. And he went on to write other books of erotica. Tropic of Cancer is erotica. Tropic of Capricorn is erotica. He wrote... His erotica has a very Kurt Vonnegut feel to it. They witnessed the rise of Hitler. And a lot of that, the fascist takeover of Germany and stuff is reflected in a lot of their works. And it appalled them because, let's face it, they were non-typical, the Millers, Anais Nin, and her husband were not what was the norm for that time. It was, they had, not only did Anais Nin have sexual liaisons with both Henry Miller and June Miller, she had sexual liaisons with prostitutes, and she did a lot of experimentation. Things we would consider BDSM now. That whole scene. Luckily, as the fascist powers came to power in Germany, the Millers, being Americans, got out of France. They got out of France. Anais Nin and her husband actually went to Cuba for a while, I believe, before they wound up in the United States. Remember, this is pre-Castro Cuba, so it was friendly to Americans. So yeah, there's a lot. I'm kind of holding back on a lot because YouTube the algorithms in YouTube and stuff. The movie stars Fred Ward, Uma Thurman, Maria Day, or D. Medeiros, Richard Grant, and Kevin Spacey. It's all of these people at the time this movie were made were still up and coming in Hollywood. It's rumored that Uma Thurman and Maria del Medeiros, and I know I just butchered the hell out of that name, had a bit of their own affair. It was Uma Thurman, who is Buddhist, or at the time, I can't remember. She's either Buddhist or Hindu. I want to say Buddhist. For some reason, Buddhist sounds right. She is a very she's a very sexual creature, from what I understand, from things I've read. She's liberated. She has a very liberated sense of sexuality. So yeah, in fact, she was in I gotta learn how to talk. Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac in 2013. She did the Kill Bill movies. And she's I wouldn't, from the stuff I've read about Uma Thurman, I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't. It is not something that is out of bounds. Now, whether it's true, whether or not they had this a relationship mirroring their roles in Henry and June, I don't know. I cannot find anything that says one way or another. And if you're to look at it logically, anything that doesn't confirm it by default says that it didn't happen. If there's no proof that it did, so by default it didn't. Fred Ward he did a lot of really good stuff. Kevin Spacey. Now, Kevin Spacey is kind of fallen out of favor due to the fact that Kevin Spacey likes to sexually harass people. So yeah, from the accusations that have been floated, that Spacey had a thing for young boys and men. So there's that. His role in this movie was pretty decent. I'm not going to tell you to shun the movie because Kevin Spacey's in it, or go see the movie because Kevin Spacey's in it. I would tell you to go see the movie based on the fact that it's a good movie. Fred Ward makes a moving and powerful Henry Miller. Uma Thurman is June Miller. Maria de Medeiros is a very powerful Anais Nin. She looks like Anais Nin. I don't know if it's the makeup, if she's just that similar in facial features. But yeah, it's she does. She makes a very convincing Anais Nin. The movie, I couldn't find anywhere on how much it cost to make the movie. I do know it was an indie movie, so it probably had a very close to zero budget. It made $11.5 million at the box office, and it got Best Cinematography at the 63rd Academy Awards. And it has a runtime of 136 minutes. So just a little over 2 hours. 120 minutes would be 2 hours. Just a little over 2 hours. I had been introduced to Anais Nin. In fact, the first book I personally had ever read of Anais Nin's was her Delta of Venus. I was in high school. I was working part-time at a used book / comic store. Probably the best job I ever had in my life. And I came across the book. And me being who and what I am, and being in high school at that time, and the sexual liaisons that I had at that time, that book really, really spoke to me. It was one of those books that basically shaped the way I feel toward women, the female orgasm, respect for women's sexuality. And it is well worth a movie, well worth watching. Henry Miller's writings are worth reading. Anais Nin's writings are worth reading. Her erotica is very female sexuality, female orgasm related. Her essays on sex, sexuality are worth reading, because she had a very, mind you, a lot of this was written in the 30s and 40s, and this woman had a very evolved, what we would call in this day and age, woke view. So she, I guess back in that time period, it was like super woke. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. And other to say, go out and check out this movie, the writings of Henry Miller and Anais Nin. Enjoy them. And always remember to be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. p.m. Do you know where your children are?